are Crossing the Nerdverse, bringing you yet another episode. My name is Travis. I'm joined as always by my fantastic co hosts, Eric, Ryan, and James. This week's episode, we're going to be diving back into the current status of consoles and their future. So, we're going to be talking about Sony and Xbox. I almost said Microsoft, but it's its own thing again. It's Xbox again.
I mean, console war. Everyone got away from it, so they were like, "We're bringing it back ourselves.
Well,
We're just gonna see who could be the bigger villain." That's what this was at the end of the day.
It's having a race to the bottom.
Yeah, they're bringing back the console wars to make sure that it ends.
A race to villainy.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
man.
a good title for this episode. Thank you.
Yeah,
for that,
Race
folks.
to Villainy.
Race to Villainy. That's a good one. Clip that.
Oh,
Yeah. No, I'm typing it in right now. No worries.
Are we cooked, chat? Oh.
are we cooked? But no, legitimately, for those of you that are not aware, we're going to be diving into some pretty controversial topics in today's episode. We're going to be discussing primarily Xbox and Sony and some of the moves they've made that put them back in contention with Nintendo for the largest villain video game organization out there. And I'm actually going to start us off just before we dive into the meat of it. It is really disappointing to me to have this come on the tail end of what I actually thought was really good Xbox news from just a couple of weeks ago, with them dropping prices for Game Pass and things looking up with the new was it CEO.
That'll teach you to be optimistic.
Yeah, that'll teach me.
I mean,
Oh man,
it was a little unexpected to me,
Yeah.
but I mean, when you do it to one area, like when you lose money to one thing, it's inevitable that you gotta take it from somewhere else. So
Yeah,
you
Adam-
gotta pay less for your Game Pass and pay more for your system.
So, yeah, I mean, that's going to jump right into our first topic is the decrease in the price of Xbox Game Pass and their announced price increase for new hardware coming soon, which I believe, not 100%, but I believe they said it was going to be about $150 price increase
Yeah.
to this next generation. So that's
Yeah.
going to put it somewhere around the $950 mark if you're looking for the new Xbox.
that's unbelievably. Oh man,
Yeah,
And
all the
that's-
systems are
and
going
that's
up in
following-
price.
That's
And don't
following
forget,
the
ladies and
trend
gentlemen,
of $100 to $150 every generation from
Well, and
one
that-
console to the next.
that $900 price tag might seem a little smaller than your PC gaming until you remember that you got to pay. What is it right now? $35 a month for the privilege of using the console that you purchased. So, oh man. Don't worry, I'm going to work on keeping my frustrations down to a minimum this episode. I'm not just going to sit here and bitch about it the whole time
It's going to be it's about $10 a month.
for
Just
the
for
Xbox
Live.
service.
I mean, when you look at it, I don't think it's the end of the world with a price increase if they're struggling with parts and things of that nature. We're going to talk about it after this particular part, but the fact that they went ahead and did what they did after the price increases, that's where I have the biggest problem. Because right now, I mean, it is true, like some parts for your electronics have gone up due to like things going on in the world.
Data
So
centers.
yeah, maybe that forced their hand. I didn't see anything about Sony doing it, which makes it even more interesting to me. Sony's
I'm sure-
basically staying
sure
the
the
same
new-
price, though.
I'm sure the PS6 is going to be more expensive than the PS5 was. I mean, that
Oh, yeah.
always follows
But-
the trend. There's
but I
no
mean, like,
chance
they're-
it's going to be like the same price.
Yeah, but Xbox raised it on all their systems that are out right now. So like, even the older ones that are still selling, like they went up in price also.
Yeah.
So
well,
if you
I mean,
look like their older
this
ones
is-
went up like $50.
They've actually increased their prices of the Xboxes in May of last year, again in October of last year, and then now in August.
Yep.
And so it'll be $799 for the Series X on August 1st. So
That is a fact.
go buy one now, I guess, if you want a brand new Series X. Also, no more. They're not doing the 2 terabyte version anymore at all. They're just not
Yep.
doing that anymore.
Getting rid of that one.
I'm glad I've got mine.
Yeah. Honestly, it blows my mind looking at some of the stuff. Like just talking pricing, right? Admittedly, the prices have fluctuated wildly, especially for things like Game Pass in the recent months. And so for everybody that is maybe not an Xbox person, your essential service that you need to just make your Xbox work is $10 a month. And then they have the premium, which is $15, and the ultimate, which is $23. This does not include the price tags for things like Xbox Game Pass. And I'm going to be real honest with you guys. If it wasn't for Game Pass itself, I'd have ditched Xbox over a year ago. But the Game Pass lets my kids swap games out like mad. So saves me money, I think, in the long run. At least for the time being. But this recent series of news has got me, I'm absolutely livid. It makes me want to bail on the console wars so hard.
I mean, and not to mention also with GTA 6 being $80 for the base edition, that's now going to be the standard going forward.
Yeah.
There's no more $60 games. They're going to be $80 games.
Yeah, especially when Ubisoft comes out with their next quadruple A title.
Yeah, the quadruple A title.
Quadruple A title.
I had to take a stab at that game. I had to. Can't help it.
I'm curious though. I wonder if they're going to explain. I haven't seen anything for an explanation come from Microsoft yet in regards to why it went up. I know I think she's the CEO or whatever right now. She was good to explain like the Game Pass stuff. So I'd be curious to see if she's going to come out and talk about this at all.
About the hardware?
I think.
Yeah.
They have talked about the hardware increase.
She came out and said it?
I don't know if it's her specifically, but Microsoft acknowledged that it's being driven by memory and component crunch tied to AI data centers.
Data centers are driving up the cost.
Which is ironic considering
because
that Microsoft is opening a bunch of data centers.
Opening a bunch of data centers.
Yeah, I feel like they could probably cut one or two of those things and then churn out more consoles. But like, whatever. I'm not the decision maker over there, so please don't hold me accountable to it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest. To me, it kind of looks like they're doing this to Xbox to kind of pick up the slack for like other parts of their company. I think.
See, for me, it looks
they've got a lot of costs in the data centers and stuff like that, and they're not going to get a return on it right away. So I feel like they know people are going to buy these systems. It's going to happen. Christmas time, they're going to sell. So I feel like part of it, yes, they're saying it's the parts, which it very well, of course, could be. But I think it's to carry some of the other departments in Microsoft itself that are just not generating as much revenue.
See, I think it's a lot more nefarious than that, if I'm being honest. It makes me feel very tinfoil hatty, because this is the same conversation that we were having back in February whenever Sony let go of Blue Point Games, and all of the big talking heads in the Nerdverse were talking about how it was going to be an industry-wide problem and how it was going to show a distinct trend of how things were going to be going. And sure enough, we've seen several months of component price increases with not a lot of explanation coming from anywhere about what those are until very recently, and they're just tagging it to the data centers. I'm the last person that's going to defend the data center, but it feels like they're just squeezing blood from the stone. And, Bones, we were talking about it before the show. You said there wasn't going to be any major closures, but I'm showing closures for Tango Gameworks. I'm showing closures for Arcane Austin.
They're not closing any. Microsoft isn't closing any of them. They're divesting, which is different. Tango Gameworks, I don't see anything about.
Yeah, that one's not even on my. That one's not on my list either. I'm looking at. But I mean, just to counter off Ryan, I mean, the data center rush right now is a big deal because we're feeling that in my industry, because I'm in commercial electrical equipment, right? I feel it in my industry too, because data centers are taking priority because those are the big driving factor in the market right now. I'm not saying that they're also using it to like help maximize their profits, because they're going to. I mean, that's pretty standard.
Tango Gameworks was closed in 2024.
Gotcha.
So not part of this.
Part of this discussion.
Yeah, I'm not saying Microsoft has never closed a studio.
Yeah. Sorry, no. When I was pulling up the local stuff, and when you said, "Oh, they're not shutting down any studios," I could have swore there was all kinds of people talking about how there was going to be over 5,000 layoffs, and they were selling studios off to other people. And
So
Arcane Austin was also closed in 2024.
Yeah, it started off.
Arcane France is the one now that's being like divested.
Mhm. It started off with them announcing, I think, potential closures, and they gave those studios the right to buy themselves back or divest to other companies if there was bidders out there for them, which I think is better than just outright shuttering a studio. Which we'll get into the company that does that a little later.
So,
Yeah.
Interestingly, one of the studios, Double Fine Productions, actually filed a union petition in May, right before all of the closure stuff was announced. So I think that's pretty.
They saw it coming.
Yeah. They maybe might have had some hint at least.
Yeah, and
Well,
so
and on
like
the subject,
on
Go
top of the divesting of these studios, right? So that counts towards their total, like, I guess, reduction in employee numbers, which is right now Xbox trimmed about 5,000 jobs between divesting studios and then just straight up letting people go. They let
Yeah,
go
they
of
fired
about
3,200.
3,200,
it was like 3,300 people. A lot of which the CEO has come out and said that they were double management positions. I don't know how accurate that is, but when you
It
go
seems
in
like
a
it could
gobbling
be accurate.
spree, it happens a lot when companies buy other companies. You'll see that in every industry where companies will go through and buy a bunch of other companies or buy competitors or buy ancillary parts to their production. And when things are going well, they don't really look too hard at any positions that are doubled up. But when it comes time to trim the fat for whatever reason, those double positions are always going to be the first to go. My big shocker is this happened day one of their new fiscal year.
Yep.
That was the thing that really caught me by surprise, because they usually try to put on day one of the new fiscal year, they try to put on the brightest face possible.
Well, and you would
Microsoft was just, or Xbox was just like, we're letting all these people go.
Yeah, you'd expect to hit at the end of the year, right? Like come what would it be, June 28th or June 30th, right before the new fiscal year starts. And no, they waited until, I mean, the last of these ones, correct me if I'm wrong, was July 6th.
Yeah, that was day
So-
one of their new fiscal year.
Yeah, new fiscal year.
So fun fact for Ryan, who didn't study economics as much in high school, or not high school, in college as I did, because I had to take extra economics classes. Companies like to do their big layoffs and fat trimming in the middle of the year in case it comes with a significant drop in stock, because that gives them a chance to recover before their fiscal year reports are due. So you don't usually see it happening at the beginning, because that makes a company look like it's troubled. And you don't see it right at the end, because it can affect stock prices right before the close of their fiscal year. So you usually see it somewhere in the middle, which is why I was kind of like, weird that this is a day one activity, but
I
I'm
think
not convinced that they're gonna.
I think that the day one activity is intentional, and it's like they're making a statement that we're cleaning house kind of thing, not necessarily like, well, we're firing a bunch of bad people, but we're like shaping the company up, because they already acknowledge that they're like, not as successful as they would hope to be. I still think that their arguments that they're not successful is kind of suspect.
No, I think that's ridiculous. Yeah, because I think, what was it, like a 5% decrease in profit from year over year was what they announced. So that's not a 5% loss for anybody keeping tabs. That is a 5% decrease compared to last year's profits, which is not terrible when you're like a $30 billion corporation. Ooh, getting a lot of feedback from somebody.
It was Eric, whatever's going on over there, background noise or something.
Well, and so we're looking at, like you said, 3,200 layoff jobs, which, according to what I'm looking at, was around 20% of its gaming workforce.
Yeah.
And I do think that it's really likely that a lot of those, like you said, were double management jobs and that kind of stuff. I'm seeing a lot of the layoffs are heavily impacting Bethesda, Obsidian, ID Software, and ZeniMax Online Studios. I think the part that caught me off guard was this is coming right at the tail end of Sharma talking about how the next plan was mass acquisition. Do you think they're tied together?
You mean freeing up space to pick up more stuff? We'll see if they're going to do any acquisition or if they're going to try and streamline the company. I think with the way they're going, it's going to be more towards the streamlined side as opposed to getting bigger.
I'd be curious to see if they're doing this, though, also to get ahead of stuff. With the increase, like more storage and stuff like that coming up, I want to see what Sony's going to do. Like, is Sony going to end up having to do this same thing towards like the middle of the year, like you're talking about, Travis, instead of the beginning of the year?
No, Sony does it differently. We'll get to that when we get to Sony. Sony does things much different. James and I were talking about that before the show.
But I just mean, like, also, like, it could be a smart thing to do. They're just trying to get ahead of some of the cost increases they're expecting and stuff like that. And if they do it at the beginning of the year, it makes it a little easier to deal with it later on, maybe. But it's fun to sort of try to figure out what the train of thought is. I'm not a millionaire and am not running a big company, so I don't know. But it's kind of interesting to have their mindset.
Yeah, and just to go into it, I think was it the four were Double Fine, Compulsion, Ninja Theory, and Undead Labs?
Yeah, I was actually about to bring up the divestment.
Are in Arcane France.
And Arcane France, sorry.
So
I
this
think that one's under review before divestment,
yeah.
right? That's the one that's pending.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are good studios. Like, they've made successful games. So it's kind of one of those things where I was like, I'm shocked that they're letting them go. But a lot of their successful games were day one release on Game Pass, and I really think that has come back full circle to bite Xbox. I think Game Pass has turned into kind of a failed experiment.
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, you start looking at the games that we actually saw from some of these companies, right? And some of them are fan favorites and cult like favorites that have been around for many, many years, like Psychonauts coming out of Double Fine Productions. The one that caught me most off guard was Compulsion Games, but that's because I'm a big fan of what they made. We Happy Few was fantastic. From what I can see, though, Undead Labs is the one that is catching everybody by surprise. With State of Decay franchise being such a massive like chunk of stuff, and State of Decay 3 being such
just around the corner, supposedly, in 2027, and being a very highly wishlisted game in Steam. So yeah, that is I also find pretty interesting. I actually am excited for State of Decay 3 myself. So I hope that it does continue to be developed. What the CEO, what's her name? I can't.
Sharma.
Sharma, yeah.
Sharma.
Said that none of the games currently in development are being canceled. So I'm like, what does that mean for these companies that you're divesting? Are you still like making State of Decay 3? Is it still coming out? I'll be curious to see if and I'll be curious to see if that's actually true or not as well.
Same. I had actually, one of the big ones I was going to bring up was the discussion of cancellations and IP like shifts. The only one that really came up for me was that Avowed 2 was being canceled before it was ever really being announced, and that Bethesda is now shunting everything they got into a new Fallout game.
I thought the last update from Bethesda was that everybody was getting pulled off of projects to finally finish the next Elder Scrolls. They could have changed their mind again.
It could be. I don't actually know.
Yeah.
I mean, whichever, man. They're all the same. Like, just reskin it a little bit, whatever.
Yeah, just release another Skyrim.
Yeah, I mean, it solved their problems before, right?
Yeah.
Just reskin Skyrim and make it like, I don't know, something different. Instead of being fantasy, make it futuristic sci-fi, or make it like Shadowrun, make it modern day sci-fi with some weird stuff going on.
Honestly, with the joking set aside, the re-release of games has been something that's been pretty hot for the last 2 years, and we are seeing things like the Elder Scrolls Oblivion getting released, and players complaining wildly about bad ports, bad mechanics, and rushed jobs. Do you think this is going to address some of the issues, or is this going to exacerbate the problem?
I think neither one. I think they don't give a shit about re-releasing games that much. They just do it to make money.
Yeah, a re-release of a game is just getting a little sugar on top of your candy.
Yeah, I think that going forward into the future, I have concerns about, like, she said specifically that they're going to focus on the IPs, the big IPs that everybody likes, and like to me that it could be a very sad thing because like I love my Elder Scrolls games and I love my Fallout games. I played a lot of Forza, but I also like new games coming out and discovering these new worlds that could be great IPs, right? And if they're not doing anything adventurous anymore, it's a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, I would like I do hope it doesn't impact creativity with them, which honestly I think releasing these studios might put them back on track to do stuff that they're actually passionate about, as to do commercial driven stuff when you're owned by a larger entity. So we'll see what comes out of them. Ryan said to put joking aside, but I absolutely can't. And so I need to know from Ryan right now, do you have Day of the Tentacle remastered by Double Fine Games? Is that something?
No. Truth be told, one of the games that
it's on my Steam wish list now.
It's on my wish list now. Now one of the games that I am
support small developers.
Yeah. One of the game series and IPs that are being rolled into the divestment, honestly, that I was hoping to see more of, not necessarily in sequels, but in the same vein, was actually South of Midnight.
South of Midnight, yeah.
Yeah. I was hoping that they would have a massive success with South of Midnight. I personally loved it, thought it was fantastic, and I was hoping to get a lot more in that same vein of storytelling style games. I'm hoping that with the divestment, some of these studios can, really thrive in the indie scene. But I don't know. I have doubts. I'm really pessimistic about the state of affairs right now.
I think Ninja Theory. I think Double Fine and Ninja Theory are both going to be okay. They have a pretty good track record of releasing pretty successful games. All in all, I mean, you have the Hellblade series from Ninja Theory. You've got the Psychonauts from Double Fine. I think they're going to be okay. I really do. That's a group of talented developers. It's a group of people that I think are still passionate about the whole process. So I think they'll be fine. I'm a little worried about Compulsion, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
They've had, I think, 3 full development games. They've assisted in others, but they've only had 3 full releases on their own, if I'm looking at that correctly. So
the big thing that I'm wondering about is the Arcane Marvel Blade game that they've been developing.
There's never going to be a Blade game. There's never going to be a new Blade movie.
Honestly, it's got to be fully canceled at this point, right? I don't see them picking up would be a risky IP, because Travis is right. Every time they try to do a title superhero game, it's hit or miss. Unless you're doing Spider-Man, they generally crash and burn. The last really successful one outside of a Spider-Man franchise that was a solo hero game was Wolverine 10 years ago?
I think this next Wolverine coming up will also be successful. I think a Blade game would be successful. Also, but the thing is, like, they have already announced that they are developing that game, and she had said that they aren't canceling games that are in development. So that's why I bring that up. I don't know how much you can hold her to that word, but we'll see. That I think that's like the litmus test of, like, can we trust anything that you say? You know.
Like
if they push forward with Blade, if they push forward with Blade, I'll be like, you know what? I still don't like you, but at least I can trust what you say a little bit.
Actually, I can see your stance on that, and I can respect it. It's, if you can hold to what you're saying, even if you're saying shit that we don't like, then all right. Because let's face it, not everybody's getting that treatment right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you want, I think we could move into some people that are saying some things sometimes and doing other things.
Yeah.
Just doing whatever they want.
What company could you be talking about, James?
It's definitely it's like what do they call it? They're pretty big. Sony. That's
Sony. Yeah.
Might as well hit this one full.
Yeah, let's transition.
Do you want to start with their official announcement or their quiet chicanery?
Well, I mean, everybody's already talking about the official announcement, right? So we might as well put it on our show as well, with the disc killing policy that Sony made public very recently.
They started a trend. Domino's is going all digital by 2030. I didn't know if you guys saw that on Twitter.
Oh, can't wait for my holographic pizza.
It's not holographic. It's a license key.
Yeah.
Now this one actually, I'm not even a PlayStation guy, right? I know a lot of my friends are PlayStation guys, and I actually know a few people that are not upset by this at all. They've been digital for a long time anyway, and so it's not affecting them whatsoever. I personally, even though I'm not a PlayStation guy, this pisses me off. And the reason being is because the same reason I get in frustrations with Amazon, which is the only time it's actually hit me personally, right? Where I have purchased, I guess, like you said, Travis, an access key to get to my movies, or in this particular case, my very expensive video games that people are still pre-ordering for digital releases like they're going to run out. Yeah, but
It's the FOMO factor. People like the cool flex of the bonus
yeah.
things that you get.
But Sony, in addition to moving to digital only, refused to have any kind of assurance, agreement, or contract in order to maintain the products that you have purchased. Meaning that if Sony decides to take a video game out of its server, library, access point, despite the fact that you have access to it by purchasing that key, you have no ownership of that product.
You know, I think there's a company that just recently did that. They removed a bunch of movies from their library.
Yeah.
Who was? Oh, that was also Sony.
That was
It's also Sony,
Wild.
yeah.
Wild, yeah. Yeah, that practice is already in effect. The thing that
right,
got,
right before they made the all digital announcement. In fact,
Yeah.
they,
Like
were like-
right before.
yeah.
I think the thing that really chapped me the most about that was the lack of forewarning or announcement. And it does, if there's not any recourse to this, that does set a really bad precedence of you're just renting whatever it is that they have available as opposed to a purchase,
Well,
which has led to a few people in the gaming community to a very catchy slogan of, if purchasing isn't owning, then pirating's not stealing.
Yep.
Not-
Piracy isn't theft.
I'm not condoning any of that behavior, so please don't
I
take
am.
it that way.
I am. Do it. Be a pirate.
But yeah, Bones already has a tricorn. He's got the Jolly Rogers
Oh,
flying in
yeah.
the background. You just can't see it.
You
Well,
know,
and this is-
what bothers me like also about this is that they try to frame this removing of these movies as like what fans want them to do somehow. Like,
Yeah.
what
We definitely want less for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want you to take something away from me that I've bought.
Yeah. Well, and this comes into a lot of the controversy, and this is where we start getting into the say one thing, do something different, hiding behind the shadows kind of stuff. Because Sony's statements on this have been wild, varied, and very inconsistent. The one that
Well,
really got
They went offline for almost a week after they made that we're going fully digital because they kind
Yeah.
of hit some backlash. Their follow-up post was literally pictures of elephants in rooms.
Yeah. And so they kept saying that moving to digital was going to be a cost-cutting measure, right? Like they're going to be saving an epic amount of money by moving to digital because physical had represented such a small percentage of their sales. That has been proving patently false, especially with the upcoming game releases. And it was followed up by a class action lawsuit just days after the announcement from a Dutch consumer advocacy group. That is a $457 million class action lawsuit against Sony that argues that by completely eliminating physical games, Sony is abusing its monopoly power to trap players into a closed ecosystem where they can only buy games via the PlayStation Store, which would allow Sony to inflate prices arbitrarily and protect its 30% digital sales tax.
Can we also stop?
The point
to
I
talk
would like to
about-
make, Ryan, the
Well,
physical
can I
copy.
say something real quick?
Oh, go ahead.
About the Sony Store thing also, because the other thing that they're doing and nobody's talking about, and I get that it's an older console, but they're turning off the store at all for PS3 players.
Yep.
Again, like what is this telling people that you can only use the store and we can turn it off whenever we want?
Oh yeah. Well, and there's precedent to just be like they can arbitrarily decide a clock, right? And so a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, it's a PS3. We're 2 consoles back. Why don't you just buy the new console?" You know, what if they decide that you're allowed to own your game for 4 months before they take it off to move on to the next big thing? Because let's face it, business turnover is way shorter than that 4-month window. Travis, what'd you have?
I was just a contradictory point to yours, Ryan. So their physical media copy only made up like $30 million worth of sales, which is not insignificant, but the digital copies of games made up like 97% of all games sold. on the PS5. So
Which
physical
I'm not.
copies are still in high demand, but they weren't as big of a market share as you were implying.
Well, and here's the thing. I might have misspoken on that. The point I was making is that the games they brought up as examples were heavily tailored to support their point, right? And
Right.
there are lots of, as we've seen from backlash on social media, there's a lot of players that are physical copy owners. And we're just moving into a part. Honestly, going digital is not what bothers me. If they'd have gone full digital and been willing to assure that the games are always going to be accessible through their whatever and make contracts and be confident in their capabilities, I wouldn't be complaining right now. What I am going to complain about is they're abusing the entire deal to just be able to charge whatever they want to charge, to be
No,
able to do whatever they want to do.
yeah, I get it.
And
And I'm not disputing that point. What I was saying was like the
but yeah,
billion
no,
dollar industry that is gaming, $30 million for physical sales copies is a drop in the hat. It does lead into a point I wanted to make, and then that was one of the biggest selling points for the PS5 was disc backwards compatibility with
Yep.
PS4 titles.
That's actually, it's not even a point I considered. That's 100% right. Yeah.
That was one of the biggest selling points for the PS5, and that's why in console sales alone, Sony crushed Xbox by volume over this last generation. Was the fact that you could play your PS4 titles on your PS5 with the disc, and it wouldn't be an issue. I'm not always 100% behind full backwards compatibility because eventually you get to a point where you're going to hit a wall, right? You can't have a disc reader that reads every format of discs as they continue to develop and change. So I understand there need to be some limiting factors. But I've always been a big proponent of one generation behind of what you're doing, unless you have just made a astronomical leap forward in technology. You should be able to backwards compatible to the previous generation.
What do you feel like is an actual reasonable window right now to move from one generation to the next?
Like time frame?
Yeah. What could we expect? Not necessarily like professional or business or expectations. Like, what could we feasibly expect from the PS6 to the PS7?
I mean, going from the PS5 to the PS6, I mean, obviously your operating speeds are always going to be a driving factor, right? How much your frames per second rate is going to be as it transfers over. And then just the demand for these highly visual games, right? Continues to increase because gamers are never happy. We're never just like, this is pretty enough. That grass looks real enough. That water looks real enough. Now, everybody's always going to want. Always want more. A little more. So I think that's just going to continue to be the trend.
So you
look
think
at the
that
horsepower rating between the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One is a huge jump when you really look at it.
So you think the driving factor is going to be hardware performance capability?
I think that's always been
historically been. So I
Yeah.
assume that's what it's going to continue to be. While PC will continue to be better than both.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I've been having mic issues, and I've been meaning to bring this up. I put it in chat, no one saw it. So the biggest thing everybody's missing from this going away from discs is the secondhand market. Now, a lot of people can't afford to buy these games brand new and things of that nature. So this is going to really impact some of the younger gamers and some of the gamers that don't quite have as much money as other people, which there's nothing wrong with, or it'll also impact people that have multiple systems that usually buy used to kind of be able to purchase multiple like extra games and things like that. And also, like if you look, I know GameStop's a big one that does it, but like GameStop relies heavily on reselling secondhand games.
Actually, their market share of reselling games has gone down significantly. They're primarily a collectibles store now.
Well, and we saw, it was a few years ago, wasn't GameStop the subject of a massive social media push?
Yeah.
To like wildly inflate their
To the
stocks and
moon!
stuff. Yeah.
To the moon. Thank you, Reddit.
So like that's a big thing with this whole going digital. Like I don't have the biggest problem with it because if you look, Steam is digital. And then on top of that, when Sony got rid of those movies, that was because they lost the licensing to it.
Yeah, that was why. But they could have renewed that though. They could have renewed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you have to look at like your games that are more like already owned by Sony, like the chances of them taking it away from you are slim.
Yeah,
And
what
I
happens
think-
if
they know people will
what happens
leave.
if Nintendo buys a studio from Sony?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with that part, but I'm saying like a lot of times your big heavy IPs, I don't think you'll have as big of a concern as you will with some of your smaller titles and things like that.
I wouldn't be so sure. We hinted at this when we were talking about Xbox divesting studios. Sony, when a studio starts to fail, flounder, or not make as much money as predicted, gets chopped up and absorbed.
Yeah.
They take the best of the best as far as the employee list goes. They can everybody else and shutter the studio. Not only do they shutter the studio, but they maintain the rights to that studio's name as well. They don't cede ownership to it. So it's not like they can just cut a studio and then somebody goes and reforms it later. The studio is gone forever,
But
along with a lot of the
they keep the IPs though, so they could still keep the games
studio?
going. No, not
why
the studio.
would, Sony
why
would
itself.
Why would they? If they need to free up server space to run something else, why would they?
Oh yeah.
If they own the studio and the server space and the IP.
Oh yeah, I don't think you're going to see certain games anymore. Like if a game does really, really poorly, obviously at that point there's going to be the chance that it comes off.
Concord.
Yeah,
that's
what I mean.
think-
Like
I
you're
think-
going to see
I mean-
it,
I mean,
but they reimbursed for Concord.
The problem is that they've already done it, and they did it without telling anybody that they were going to do it, and that's like the hugest issue is that they didn't say, "Hey, we're going to be removed," and then they haven't. Like they're not giving anybody refunds or anything for these movies that they just took away.
No,
They're
and they
not
haven't
doing
addressed it at all. Like they haven't
Yeah.
even acknowledged it. They just did it and then have done nothing. And this coming on the back end, one of the big ad campaigns for the PS5 was, how can I share games on the PS5? And they go, oh, and it shows somebody holding a disc and then handing it to their friend.
Yep. Well, and actually, on the subject of the ads and ownership and stuff, let's go ahead and talk about Hiroki Totaki, where 2 days, less than 48 hours after this announcement was made, went into a massive open market sale and sold 56.5% of his direct holdings. Those of you interested, CEO of Sony Group, and pocketed almost $5 million from it. And if that's not
that,
is 4.73 is what I'm showing, but
I thought it was 47.3.
So while we look those numbers up, that's about as insider training and corporate hypocrite behavior as I've ever seen in my life. And it's bizarre to me that he actually waited till 48 hours after and still managed to make a mint, because immediately following that announcement, their stocks were plummeting.
It was 4.7 million. You were correct. I misread that.
Honestly, you want to know what getting into more of like personal feelings vibe here. You know what it honestly reminds me of is the arcade. Because back in the day, you took your bag of quarters, you went to the arcade. You better hope the arcade owner opened when he said he was gonna and has the cabinet you want to play and didn't just sell it to the next guy down the road. And so we're just going back to that, just on a larger scale. We're completely beholden to some arbitrary judge on what we should be having and what we shouldn't. And for those of us that are in the older gaming sphere, like all of us old dudes on this podcast, our interests in video games are significantly different from the interests of their target markets, ranging from 18 to 28. And so I hope you guys really like the same 3D printed COD remakes as everybody else.
Transition to PC.
Yeah,
Transition to PC.
We also talk about the Xbox console price increases because they just announced another one, right? But it's not like Sony hasn't also increased the price of their consoles.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, not to the same extent, but they still have. I mean, $499 was the original PS5. Now it is $649.99. So,
which is not a small thing.
No.
No, and like I said, we were talking about it before the show. Again, when they go from the next console to the next, whatever iteration of Xbox doesn't go in numerical order.
They go in whatever order they want.
Yeah, I'm leery to predict what the next one's going to be. For sure, the next one's the PS6 though from Sony.
Yeah,
they're going to be the same price. I would expect. I'm going to call my shot right now, and we'll check on it around whenever the next console releases happen. $999.99. That way they're under $1,000. But the average go is going to be $999.99, unless you want one of the fancy limited edition super special ones, and they'll be like $12.99.
$12.99. Yeah.
Yeah, the Pro edition that comes out 2 months later that has an extra half terabyte of memory.
You can hold one more
Has-
game.
Yeah,
One
you can
additional
get.
game.
Yeah, it's got enough memory space for you to have Call of Duty and FIFA.
Now they're
Yeah.
gonna all come pre-installed with like Warzone and take
Yeah.
up a bunch of space. Like
It's just
bloatware you
Fortnite.
can't
It's
get
just
rid
a
of.
It's just Fortnite.
It's just Fortnite. That you have
No,
enough room to run Fortnite.
It's Microsoft, so it's gonna be Warzone.
It'll for
Here's
sure
the
be
thing.
Warzone.
They make all their money off of Forza and Call of Duty and probably Madden if I had to guess, but something in that vein, right?
No, Madden's also on the PlayStation though. So those sports games are cross-console.
That's true. Well, and actually, before we transition into our last segment here, let's talk about exclusivity. Now, that's been a hot topic amongst people, so I'm going to be looking more for opinion pieces than anything. What are y'all's personal thoughts on exclusivity? And is it a good thing, a bad thing, or how is it impacting the industry?
Pirate and port, no one cares.
There you go.
Consoles are always going to be the exclusives are always going to be like a big pushing point for Xbox and Sony, and even Nintendo. Nintendo pushes their exclusives too. They're no different than any other console making company. I think it's still going to be a thing. They're still going to push them. There's going to be. I think Sony is going to lean more heavily into console exclusives moving forward.
Yeah, they already announced that they're doing that.
Yeah.
So
I think you're going to see a lot less. I think you're going to continue to see like cross play between releases, right? I don't foresee any games that are released on both consoles that won't be cross-play enabled. I think you're going to see both studios push console exclusives again to a much higher extent than they were before, which is less meaningful for Xbox as you can get most of that stuff on the Microsoft Store and just play it on your PC anyway.
See, I think I'm inclined to agree. This is going to impact PlayStation a lot more than Xbox when it comes to exclusivity. And frankly, they're in a position where they could seriously strong arm. Because if they released a very good exclusive game or even a re-release of a very good exclusive game, now that you have to purchase it exclusively from the PlayStation Store, you can't get it anywhere else. Guess I'm not playing it, right? Yeah. You can't go down to GameStop and get it. And so they could charge $80, $90, $150 for the next, I don't even know what PlayStation exclusives are hot right now, but
I mean, I've said this once, I've said it 1,000 times. If you ever want to hurt a company, hurt them in their pocketbook. So if what they're doing disturbs you on a very personal and emotional level, don't purchase their media. Like, don't support the company in the way that you do. I'm not trying to like high road anything, but one of the companies that I just absolutely despise is Walmart, and I only ever go there when there's no other option.
Which gets us back to PlayStation being the only option.
Right, but it's not. That's the thing, is it's not.
It might
PlayStation
be, yeah, it might
not
be
the only option.
It might be the only option for a specific game, but unless like, if you're already a diehard for that game anyway, that means you probably are already a PS owner anyway.
Right.
Right. So it doesn't really matter to you that much, other than like there's like the whole other slew of problems, right? But being an exclusive probably doesn't matter, because if you're that much into the game that you would buy a console for it, then you probably already bought the console, right? Like.
Yeah, no, the part that honestly makes me chap is they could charge $150 for the next hot game, and it's still, people are going to buy it. And I agree with Travis. You got to attack with your pocketbook. And so when it comes to exclusivity and these changes in both the major companies, and let's face it, we all already knew that Nintendo was a villain, right? Like, ever since the Pal World controversies.
Nintendo's not a villain.
Nintendo's definitely a villain.
Yeah, they tried to shut down the studio that made Pal World because they used spheres to capture monsters, as if that is the defining aspect of an entire game. It's like, you can't have anything that's even remotely similar to something that we might do. I think they lost.
Yeah,
it's still ongoing, but it's not looking super great for them.
Yeah.
Well, and let's face it, in my opinion, anytime you have a large corporation, guess what? They're villains. There's not good large corporations. And so,
well, you don't get caught by being nice.
Like, yeah, you can't be a large corporation and be a good guy. It doesn't work that way.
So I mean, like, we could probably jump into the shady things Nintendo has done. But that'll have to be a separate episode.
Yeah. So
As
it does
sits
make me wonder.
I think between the two, as far as the race to the bottom, I think Sony's going to hurt themselves more doing this than Xbox firing people. Because let's be honest, the gaming industry is volatile. Being in a gaming studio is a volatile industry. Even when you're an independent or even semi-large studio that's not owned by Microsoft or Sony or Xbox or whoever, you're always one really bad game away from not being a studio anymore. Like,
Yeah, look at Bungie. Bungie was top shelf for many, many years. Concord.
Bungie didn't make Concord.
Yeah, Bungie
No,
made
it's-
Concord.
True
Made
story.
Marathon. Marathon's doing
Marathon.
fine.
That's
it's not
the
doing great, but it's not.
Yeah, I
Like,
was gonna
it's
say
fine.
Marathon's kind of right
Well,
It's
now.
kind of an average
Marathon-
release.
caught a lot of attention for very, very bad ways, right? With stolen artwork, the use of AI, and abuses within the industry. It led to big downfalls, which is the other major, like we talked about it last episode, right? With the sunsetting of Destiny 2, sunsetting, heavy air quotes, of Destiny 2, and it being an end to the way that that game's been going. Bungie, as far as I can tell, doesn't have a lot of longevity left without the Destiny IP. To support Travis's point. And I don't think Marathon is going to carry him through.
You know what? You know what? Who's the fucking biggest villain is to me? It's still fucking Microsoft because they closed HOTS.
Yeah,
Yeah, they did shut.
they bought
they
Activision and closed
shut down
HOTS.
Heroes of the Storm. That's true. Yeah, that's a
Just
bitter
kidding.
tension point
Just
for
kidding.
Bones
I
right
hate
there.
them all, and I'm going to continue to play on my PC.
Yeah,
You know what, that
I-
actually-
I'm
that brings
currently
up my
making the
curiosity.
transition, like, bye-bye Xbox, bye-bye PlayStation.
Yeah, we've been talking about this like it's the console wars, right? And
It
because
is.
it is the console world. I actually think we're looking at the end of console wars, and I think they're all going to kill themselves.
This is the renewal of the console wars,
Nah,
where
this will kill them
where
all.
they're like if you look at it, a lot of
the
people
last hooray.
a lot of people are going to love Sony because of the ease of getting things and stuff like that. Like Sony, this affects Sony way less than it does Microsoft, because a lot of older fans and stuff are really mad about this whole thing. But so many people already just buy digital anyways. I don't feel like the younger people are going to really pay much attention to it.
Don't
So I don't
lean
think
on
it's gonna
that
affect-
too hard. The three
I mean,
highest selling disc games in the industry, that's Xbox and PlayStation, were PlayStation exclusives. It was God of War, it was Spider-Man, and it was oh,
can look
dadgummit,
it
I
up.
had it right in front of me a minute ago. But all PlayStation exclusives were their highest selling physical media games. So to say that new players aren't buying physical media is verifiably false. I mean, that those made up a significant portion of all disc sales for the PS5.
But I mean, if you look at overall sales of everything for the year, I'm gonna wager that like digital media did much better than physical media for
Yeah, but
Sony.
that's-
Like I'm not
that's-
saying that,
That's not just Sony though. That's across the board. Digital.
right,
digital
but I'm
media.
just that's why I'm saying like Sony making this, like it stirred the pot and like I said, is reinvigorated like the war between console. Like we said, like who's the biggest villain right now, because that's what they're both doing. It is just completely villainous stuff. But I think it's like, to me, Microsoft is going to be more
How?
impacted than Sony.
Now, see,
Just
here's
because of the fact that they're laying people off and things of that nature. Like people nowadays get more upset about things like that,
It's a
especially
volatile
with their
market.
increasing cost
you're
and they're getting rid of different things.
You're talking
So that's
about
why it's gonna be
allowing
impacted.
studios to divest themselves as opposed to shuttering.
Mhm.
But they
Makes
did still
Microsoft
get rid of
more a
people.
bad guy. It happens
Yeah.
all the time.
I'm
It
not
happens
disagreeing with
every
it happens.
here's
I'm just
the-
saying it's more of an impact though than
I-
the digital
look-
media component.
Look what Hasbro did at Christmas. Does anybody remember that? No, they don't. They forgot 6 months
Yeah.
later.
They
Well,
they
yeah.
canned what 2,000 people.
That's the real villain,
the
by the way.
week of
Hasbro's
Christmas.
the
Yeah.
fucking villain.
Hasbro.
Yeah.
But here's the end of the day.
Hasbro.
If we're talking really
Don't
honestly,
say
the
that
court-
too loud. They'll send the Pinkertons.
Oh yeah, they
yeah.
will.
If we're looking at the court of public opinion, Eric, your point standing that people do
Yeah.
not like layoffs, especially in large layoffs. But here's the big thing that people are going to notice is that Xbox is doing villainous shit and telling you they're doing villainous shit. You look at Sony, they're getting caught lying left, right, and center about what they're doing. And it's true. Travis brought up a point I had not considered up until we started this episode. And that's the fact that they laid off over 3,000 people in a bloated market already after mass acquisitions. There's a good chance that those are reasonable layoffs for a decent percentage. Not all of them, because there's no way that 20% of your workforce was just bloat. But
What did
And
Sony
think-
lie about?
with Sony's,
They
more-
neglected to tell you stuff.
they're-
That's a
They
lying,
might not-
lying by omission is still
Yeah,
lying.
I'm not giving them
But they're
omission
not
here.
lie, Yeah.
But they came out and told you it was happening. It's not like they did it
After
first.
they
It's
did
not
it.
like-
No, they did it.
After-
They did it.
yeah,
They
did
did
it
it
first.
afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
They took.
Oh, the
they-
movies, yes, but I mean like the games and things like that going
But that's
forward.
it's still Sony, right? And if they can do that to your movies, they can do that to your games.
Well, and here's the kicker. When they made the announcement for the discless games, they only used examples that heavily supported their position. They didn't look at these industry as a whole. They hid numbers about what sales were going
I mean,
through.
that's
and-
common business practice, though. I can't hold them. I can't
Don't
fault
get me
them
wrong,
for
It's
that.
no different than
Yeah.
Xbox letting go.
Oh no,
3,000.
I'm not saying that it is, but I'm just saying
But my
I don't
point is
think
that-
digital is going to have that
No,
big of an
I think in the
impact.
court of public opinion, Sony's going to burn harder than Microsoft does.
It,
No.
it already
They'll still
has because
outsell
there was a bigger drop between the start of fiscal year where Microsoft made all of these layoffs, or not Microsoft, Xbox, I should say, because they're separate now technically. Xbox made all of these layoffs. Their stock price was less impacted than Sony's.
hmm
Sony had a bigger drop after all of this stuff came out than Microsoft did by making massive, which again, I'm not even going to say massive cuts to their industry because it's their business. Other studios still exist. Other studios still exist underneath Xbox. I don't think that's nearly as bad as going, we can take away something you've purchased at any time with no recourse.
On something else to consider when you look at the actual player base, right? So Nintendo's always going to be at the head of the pack when it comes to actual player base, even if you just look at the Nintendo Switch 2. So the Nintendo Switch family, let's look at that. Nintendo Switch family recorded 128 million active users worldwide, and PlayStation 5 recorded 125 million. And this is the numbers that they're putting forward with over 100 million users. Xbox Series X and S has 50.
Yep.
And they're still making a comparable amount of money.
Well, it's
So-
because they also have PC. Like their marketplace also is on PC. So when you look at it, like they're
But
probably
that's what I'm
not,
telling you.
it's not every.
This type of attack on physical media is going to hurt Sony a lot more than Xbox letting go of some people and divesting certain
Divesting
companies.
studio. You're Eric. I think you're out of your mind thinking this is going to be a more negative impact on Xbox. If you really want to see a negative impact, watch stock fluctuations,
hmm
especially for things in the video gaming industry or nerd media in general. When something is poorly received by
I
the
know.
fan base, the first thing that's going to be impacted is stock. And if stock is impacted, the rest of the company gets impacted, right? Because at the end of the day, all of the investors only want that number ever to go up. Not to mention the fact that this is extremely hypocritical from Sony's point, and people do have a memory for it. Like I said, I brought up the fact that one of the biggest selling points for the PlayStation console was backwards compatibility and disk usage with the PS4.
Yep. Well, and we definitely are kicking backwards compatibility to the curb. Now, if you want backwards compatible, you better be prepared to rebuy your game at the best case scenario. Now, I want to ask this while we're getting up to the end of our episode here, and this is for all of you guys. Obviously, we've trashed on the major console companies pretty hard in this episode, right? I'm personally not a big fan of PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo at this point. And any console that makes me pay money for the privilege of using it is kind of going in my villain list. What are the biggest, like, does PC gaming have any downsides like this? Do they have any controversies like this? Or is it just price point?
I mean, yeah, there's things like every company having their own launcher, and they have like buying things through their fucking different stores. There's still like issues in the PC world. But
Yeah, you get into well, and then depending on what type of game it is, their anti-cheat software.
yeah.
There's no standardized anti-cheat software in the industry, so they can come up with their own, and you end up having to install that too in their game. So like you buy their game, and then you have to install this other piece of software. It's not usually extra, but it is another thing that has to run
Yeah.
as you launch the
So,
game, right? It's not like
That I think proves the point right there. When I ask what's the problem with PC gaming, the first example was Bone saying everybody has their own launcher and we have to purchase from their store. That's exactly what Sony just did.
But yeah, and the thing is though, like there's so many that it's like still not an issue, right? Like yeah, so you have to purchase this game from you have to
Epic.
buy Epic. Yeah, you have to buy Fortnite stuff from Epic. You can't get it anywhere else, right? But okay, I don't need to play Fortnite. There's a billion other battle royale games.
Yeah, I honestly, looking at my PC gaming habits, I have had very little reason to leave Steam. If I'm
Yeah.
being honest, Steam has everything that I want. There's very few things that I can't get from Steam, and I do have the Epic launcher, but not because I purchased anything from them. It's because I got a free game from Amazon Prime that was on the Epic launcher. So
I do want to just clarify something though. That Microsoft still owns Xbox. They are not their own studio. They're still
They're-
100% under Microsoft.
they are, but they're running as they're not Microsoft Xbox anymore.
They-
They're just Xbox.
No, they just renamed it. Is all they did. It's
Yeah,
Oh,
the
so it's still
stock
under
is
the
still
same-
Microsoft.
yeah.
it's under the same
Like this-
stock. Yeah.
So,
I thought
No,
when they appointed her as the
Gotcha.
CEO, she was the new CEO of Xbox, and it was its own
no, it's-
entity
it's-
owned by
Now
Microsoft.
it might be a subsidiary.
no, it's still just a division.
Still
of
just straight up.
Oh.
I thought, okay,
Gotcha.
they made it seem like they had separated Xbox from Microsoft, like they had during its original launch.
Gotcha. Well, I am going to jump in right here
that
to do our
same
normal
vein.
spiel, guys. Obviously, those of you that are listening, if you listen this far, you like the show. And in return, we would like to hear from you. Your opinions, your thoughts, and your feedback very much inform us on what we need to be looking at. And so if you want to be a part of the show and help support us here at Crossing the Nerdverse, give us a like, give us a follow or a subscribe, but most importantly, give us that comment down below so that we can hear your thoughts. Maybe we were wrong about something. Maybe we missed something. And we would definitely like to be more educated. That's kind of the whole point around here. And so if you do like it, give us all that fun algorithm stuff, guys. And if you're not following us, you should, because we know the way.
I'm always right, so I'm not worried about it.
The other thing to note too is that like Sony taking a hit in their stocks is a much bigger deal than a hit because of gaming to Microsoft. Like
That's
Yeah,
a
no,
fact.
'cause Sony-
that's a rounding error to Microsoft.
Yeah, that is a fact.
But we'll have to wait and see what happens in regards to who has the bigger effect from it.
Like I said,
Yeah. I would be shocked if we have any of these problems around consoles within the next 10 years. I think we're looking at the tail end of the console wars here. I think we're going to see a
Steam's
lot
coming in
of
now.
casualties. And so, yeah.
Steam's joining the party, so it's only going to get crazier.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's right.
but at the end of the day, I can still use my tower to play Steam games. I don't have to have their fancy box.
Well, I'll be interested. Like I said, the thing that gets me the most right now is subscription. If it's a Steam Deck that I have to pay $15 to $25 a month to use, not interested.
But with that, we're going to have to bring this episode to a close. Guys, this is the first time in the history of our show we are making it to the hour
Shit.
mark flat. We did it. We finally did it. It took like 4 years, 3 or 4 years for us to finally get the timing down right. I don't know who's in
You
charge
still
of
got
doing
40
all of our
seconds.
practical effects when we go to post this. But make sure we have like streamers and confetti
Yeah.
and stuff falling down from the top. This is a big moment for us that we hit our timeline just correct on this one. But with that, yeah, we are going to bring this episode to a close. Next week, we believe we're going to be talking about Magic the Gathering and their
Cardboard crack.
yeah, their Fortnite-esque use of new IPs. But make sure you join us next week as we talk Magic the Gathering. Bones is showing off his fancy new cards that he got. Hey, the
Hell
mic's
yeah.
going. So make sure you join us next week as we talk about the new IPs coming out for Magic the Gathering and what that means for the industry. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time.
See you guys.
Bye.
It's nice to see